Hi, I'm Harold, and this is my wife, Denise. We've been married for 60 years important with you right now, before you decide to skip ahead or click away. What we're about to talk about is stuff we really wish someone had explained to us on our wedding day back in 1964. These aren't minor issues, they're the big errors that nearly ended our marriage. If you're in a relationship or considering one, you should stick around and listen.
When Harold mentions that these mistakes almost broke us if we leave our next anniversary. Now, seeing us here side by side, folks might assume our journey was easy. That's not true.
Hi, I'm Harold, and this is my wife, Denise. We've been married for 60 years, and I have to share something important with you right now before you decide to skip ahead or click away. What we're about to talk about is stuff we really wish someone had explained to us on our wedding day back in 1964. These aren't minor issues, they're the big errors that nearly ended our marriage. If you're in a relationship or considering one, you should stick around and listen. Denise, when Harold mentions that these mistakes almost broke us, he's not exaggerating. There were stretches of time when I honestly wondered if we'd even reach our next anniversary. Now, seeing us here side by side, folks might assume our journey was easy. They look at 60 years and figure we had it all sorted out from the start. But that's not true. We stumbled a lot, and those slip-ups cost us precious time and emotional closeness that we can never reclaim. Still, we grew from them, and that's the reason we're sharing this today. Harold, the first big mistake was keeping track of who was doing more in the relationship. For the initial 15 years or so, I had this running tally in my head. I'd handle the garbage, cut the grass, repair whatever broke around the house. And whenever Denise would ask for help with one more thing, I'd silently think, what about all the stuff I already take care of? I didn't voice it outright, but she could sense the bitterness. It built up like an invisible barrier between us. Denise, I had my own mental scorecard too. I prepared every meal, raised our 3 children, juggled their activities, stayed awake with them during illnesses. I did the cleaning, kept everything in order, and made sure to remember birthdays and anniversaries for both sides of the family. When Harold would get home and grumble about how exhausted he was, I'd feel like shouting, but I'd hold it in and just add it to my growing list of ways I was contributing more, putting in more effort, showing more concern. That kind of thinking poisoned our connection because a marriage isn't a business deal where you tally up every contribution. It's not about splitting everything perfectly even, right down to the last chore or parenting duty. There are periods when one partner has to shoulder more of the load. Harold, like when I got hurt in 1983 and was out of work for 4 months. Denise stepped up and handled it all. She picked up extra shifts at her nursing job, then came home to look after me and the kids. I couldn't keep score during that time. And later, when she faced her own medical issues, I returned the favor. But before we figured that out, we spent too many years comparing and resenting each other over who was giving up more. The real change happened when our eldest daughter said something that shook me. She was around 30 then, dealing with problems in her own marriage, and she asked, "Mom, do you and Dad even like each other anymore?" That stung deeply because we did love each other. We always had. But we'd gotten so caught up in chasing fairness that we'd lost sight of being partners. After that, I stopped the tallying. It didn't happen instantly, but over time. And Denise did the same. Denise, the second mistake was believing we could reshape each other's personalities. I've always been someone who likes to plan ahead. I make checklists, set schedules, and prefer knowing what's coming up weeks in advance. Harold's the opposite. He's more laid back, prefers to take things as they come. For years, actually decades, this caused constant clashes. I'd get irritated when he wouldn't lock in plans, and he'd get annoyed that I couldn't just unwind and enjoy the present. Harold, I figured if I could just make my case strongly enough or show enough frustration, Denise would see the value in being more organized and adjust. I'd say stuff like, "Why can't you get your act together more?" And she'd counter with, "Why can't you just relax a bit?" We were essentially trying to mold one another into someone else, and that never succeeds. It only leaves both people feeling insufficient and not truly seen. Denise, the breakthrough came when we accepted that my love for planning isn't a defect, it's how I feel secure in life. And Harold's easygoing nature isn't carelessness, it's what brings him happiness. We shifted from viewing our contrasts as flaws to seeing them as strengths we could use together. These days, I handle the major vacations, manage our money, and keep track of our appointments. Harold adds in little surprises, like impromptu outings or unexpected gifts, things that break up the routine in a good way. We balance each other out now instead of clashing. Harold, mistake number 3 was holding back on tough topics until they boiled over into a huge outburst. I'm the one who did this a lot. I'd let minor irritations or hurts accumulate without mentioning them, thinking it wasn't worth stirring up trouble or that I should just move on. But ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. They just stack up inside until some tiny incident triggers an explosion, and suddenly you're ranting about something from half a year ago. Denise, I recall one incident in the early 2000s. I completely snapped because Harold forgot to grab milk on his way home. Just milk. All of a sudden, I was shouting about how he never pays attention, how he always forgets what I ask. He stood there baffled, thinking, "This is over milk?" But of course, it wasn't really about the milk. It was 6 months of bottled up feelings of being ignored, and that errand was the last push. Harold, if I'd brought it up sooner in a calm way, saying something like, "Hey, when you forget the things I mention, it makes me feel like my time isn't important to you," we could have discussed it properly. Instead, I kept silent until I couldn't, and it erupted as an accusation. That approach fixes nothing. Denise, we learned to address issues earlier, not in anger, but openly. "This is bothering me, can we chat about it?" It might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's far better than letting things fester. Those hard talks don't need to turn into arguments. They can stay as honest discussions. Harold, the 4th mistake was assuming our marriage could coast along without effort. Around the 25-year mark, we settled into a predictable pattern. We knew one another inside out, had weathered plenty of storms, and thought the bond would maintain itself. We quit making time for dates, stopped having deep conversations beyond the basics, like who was handling the shopping, what time the doctor's visit was, or if the utility bill was paid. We turned into housemates who shared a bed now and then. Denise, the frightening part is how it crept up on us. We didn't even realize it was happening. There wasn't a specific day when we chose to stop putting in work. The spark, the interest in each other's inner world, the intentional effort just drifted away slowly. We got too comfortable, and that ease turned into laziness. Harold, what jolted us awake was seeing close friends divorce after 38 years together. It shocked everyone because they appeared okay on the surface. But later, she confided in me that they'd been merely okay, not joyful or close, just coexisting. One day, she decided she didn't want to live out her later years in that kind of emptiness. That scared me straight, Denise, so we shook things up. We began eating meals at the dining table instead of in front of the television. We started posing genuine questions to each other again. "What's on your mind?" Or, "What brightened your day this week?" We took evening strolls together, even if just for 20 minutes, but it was dedicated time for us. And we revived date nights, not extravagant ones, but purposeful. Sometimes it's as simple as a drive for ice cream and chatting in the parking lot, or a game of cards at home. The key is focusing on one another, not on chores or duties. A marriage requires ongoing nurturing. It won't flourish if you neglect it. Harold, the 5th mistake, and a major one, was losing sight of the fact that we're teammates. In our arguments, especially during those middle decades, it often felt like we were rivals, each aiming to come out on top, to show we were correct and the other was mistaken. Disagreements turned into contests, and in contests, someone wins while someone else loses. Denise, but that's not how a marriage operates. If one spouse wins and the other loses, the whole partnership suffers because you're meant to be allies navigating life side by side, not adversaries out to best each other. Harold, the pivotal moment came when our middle son hit a rough patch. He was about 40, had lost his job, and his marriage was crumbling. He ended up staying with us for a few months, completely devastated. Denise and I had differing views on the best way to help him, but we couldn't afford to bicker. This was our child in pain. So we sat down, truly listened, and found a middle ground. Denise, supporting him reminded us of our teamwork. It's not Harold against Denise, it's us as a unit facing challenges. Every issue, choice, or obstacle we approach together. We still differ in opinions, but as collaborators seeking the best result, not as foes. Harold, once you keep in mind that your allies, conflicts transform. You quit using words to wound. Instead, you say things like, "Can you help me see your side?" rather than, "You're mistaken." You hunt for resolutions instead of ways to score points. We're far from flawless. Even after 60 years, we slip up and get on each other's nerves. Harold still spaces out on things, I still plan too rigidly, and we occasionally revert to bad habits. But now we're aware of it. We spot the patterns, adjust, and recommit to each other daily. Denise, if I could travel back and advise my younger self, it'd be these 5 lessons. Quit tallying contributions. Embrace who your partner truly is. Address tough issues before they erupt. Keep courting your spouse. And never forget you're playing on the same side. Harold, 60 years is a long stretch. We've said goodbye to friends, brought up kids, endured heartbreaks, and marked triumphs. We've evolved tremendously since 1964, but we've done it as a pair, and that's what counts. Denise, this platform features folks like us passing along insights from long lives. If this struck a chord with you, hit subscribe and enable notifications. Leave a comment letting us know which mistake hit home for you. Give it a thumbs up. Oh, and we're putting together a Q&A session soon. If you have questions for us, about relationships, life experiences, our slip-ups, anything really, drop them below. We'd be happy to respond. Harold, we won't be around indefinitely, but while we are, we want to share our lessons. Maybe it'll spare you some of the struggles we faced. Perhaps it'll strengthen your own bonds. Either way, thanks for hearing us out.